Have you ever reacted to something and then immediately wondered, why did I just do that? Maybe you said something you didn't mean to say, or avoided doing something you actually wanted to do, or felt nervous about something that logically shouldn't feel scary. Sometimes it can feel like part of your brain is making decisions before you even have time to think about it. And in a way, it is, because a huge portion of our behavior is influenced by something we don't always notice, our subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is basically the part of your brain that stores the patterns you've learned throughout your life. All your habits, your beliefs, your emotional reactions, and your assumptions about how the world works. Once something gets stored there, your brain starts running it automatically, which is actually very helpful most of the time. Imagine if you had to consciously think about every single thing you do, like how to walk, how to talk, how to breathe, how to open a door. You would never get anything done. You might spend half your day just figuring out how to stand up. So, the subconscious mind acts like an autopilot system that runs learned patterns, so your conscious mind doesn't have to manage everything. But here's where it gets interesting: that autopilot doesn't always know the difference between patterns that help you and patterns that might be holding you back or even hurting you. Sometimes it's just running old programming. And a lot of that programming started forming much earlier than we realize. When we're children, our brains are constantly absorbing information about how the world works, what people say to us, they treat us, and how the environment is that we grew up in. Our brains are basically little learning machines or sponges during those years, which means experiences slowly start forming beliefs about things like who we are, what we deserve, or what we're capable of. The interesting part is that many of those beliefs settle into the subconscious before we're even old enough to question them. They just become part of our mental operating system. It's a little like installing software on a computer, except most of us don't remember installing the programs, or like when you get a new phone and you realize there's all this bloatware on there that you don't want and don't need, and it's just taking up space and draining your battery, which means that later we might still be running patterns that we formed a very long time ago without realizing it. Sometimes they're helpful ones, but sometimes they're not so helpful. And sometimes they're ones that simply don't fit who we've become. But the subconscious mind doesn't just store beliefs, it also quietly shapes how we interpret the world around us. Once a belief gets stored in the subconscious, the brain tends to look for evidence that supports that belief. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. Your brain filters reality through the story it already believes. So if you carry the belief that you're capable and resilient, your brain tends to notice opportunities and solutions. But if you carry a belief like, I'm not good enough, the brain might unconsciously notice moments that reinforce that. The fascinating part is that both people might be looking at the exact same situation. Their brains are just highlighting different parts of it. It's a little like two people watching the same movie, but they're interpreting it differently and noticing different things, which means the beliefs stored in the subconscious don't just influence how we think, they influence what we notice. And what we notice can shape the direction of our lives, which makes the subconscious mind less like a hidden storage closet and more like a pair of glasses we're wearing without realizing it. It's the lens we view the world through, and it shapes our actions and experiences. So, the natural question that comes up when people hear this is, if the subconscious mind is quietly influencing so much of our behavior, can those patterns actually change? Or are we just stuck with whatever programming we picked up early in life? The encouraging thing is that the brain is actually much more adaptable than we used to think. The subconscious mind is constantly learning, but it tends to learn through two main things: repetition and awareness. When you start noticing your patterns, your reactions, and your beliefs, something interesting happens. You create a little bit of space between yourself and the autopilot. Instead of automatically reacting, you start observing. And once that awareness exists, new patterns can slowly begin forming. new habits, new beliefs, new ways of responding to situations. Over time, the brain starts integrating those patterns into the subconscious as well, which means the autopilot system slowly updates itself. Not instantly, but gradually. And the more aware you become of your own patterns, the more influence you start having over the direction of your life and how you experience the world around you, which makes self awareness one of the most powerful tools we have for personal growth and change. Because once you see the pattern, you can start deciding whether that pattern still belongs in your life. And that small shift in awareness can slowly change the way you move through the world. I appreciate you being here and taking a few minutes to think about this with me today. I'm curious, what do you think? Have you ever noticed a belief or pattern in your life that you realized was quietly shaping your decisions? And if you enjoy these kind of videos and reflections about psychology, self awareness, and how the mind works, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more conversations like this. I'm really glad you're here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.